Chip, on the resolution, I think you want to pull H.
Yeah, Terry, can we just outright remove something from the agenda as opposed to add? I think we've been through this before, but I want to remove item H, no deferral or anything, just remove it outright. Is that okay?
If it's withdrawn by the applicant. Is that,
He has asked me to remove it for now, yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Ponce ain't never been here.
You may want to redo the vote because they just approved the agenda as is. You might want to redo it with that deletion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with only items A, B, C, D, E, F, and G on the consent agenda, please.
Second.
And I had a question about number 1. Do I raise that now or?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you talking about the proposal?
Proposal.
Okay. All right, we're fixing to get to it. All right, we're glad to have Councilman Hager here with us representing the council. So glad to have you, Councilman.
Thank you. I'll be here when Jason's not here.
All right, we're glad to have you. Public hearing, keep comments to 3 minutes or less. Each person representing will be expected to offer new information that has not been made previously. Once the public hearing has been closed, no additional comments will be heard unless the public hearing is officially open. Consent agenda, proposal number 2016 M020AB001, a request to abandon an unimproved alley number 308 right-of-way from Main Street northwestward to a terminus between North 10th Street and Finn Street, easements and utilities to be maintained, requested by Fresh Capital applicant, various owners.
Yes, I just had a question because I couldn't find it on Google Maps, but I see it here, so that answers my question actually. Because it just didn't appear at all on the maps. It was, or I couldn't figure out where it was.
Okay.
I'll
All right.
remove my question then.
All right. So you're satisfied? All right. Good deal.
Yes, I am.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Y'all need a hand vote on this. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Thank you. We'll go through all of these except H, which Chip has removed the last one. Resolutions 09-16, authorize all-way stop at Wallace Road at Recovery Road. B, authorize all-way stop on North 6th Street at Richardson Avenue. C, authorize all-way stop on Oak Cliff Drive at Litchwood Drive. D, authorize all-way stop at Oak Cliff at Laura Drive. E, remove valet stand in front of 1121 Fifth Avenue North. F, authorize valet stand in front of 3790 Bedford Avenue from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., 7 days a week. G, on F, John, did you have any questions? You're satisfied? Okay, good. G, remove no parking signs at 1700 7th Avenue North. All in favor?
I think you need a motion and that sort of
I
thing.
move to approve the consent agenda.
But I do want to pass along a comment from Councilman O'Connell. He just wanted to send his support for item G. And I told him I would inform you of that support.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? None. All right. Old business. Assignment and agreement, second amendment to the parking agreement for the Stallman Building tenants. Usage of 175 spaces in the courthouse public square parking garage.
We have received a request to defer this until the October meeting.
All right. It's been deferred till the October meeting.
Do we need a motion to, I make
Yeah.
a motion to defer till October.
Second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, none.
Chairman, it's not on the agenda, but we were going to give you an update on Broadway.
Okay.
A quick little update on Broadway. I think most of you know, or maybe some of you, I don't know. Anyway, I'll recap everything. It's been a while. I do. Thank you, though. So it started out as a safety concern. Broadway ranked number 1 in our pedestrian safety study that we did a couple of years ago. And the number 1 concern at that point was mid-block crossing or violations of your pedestrian signals, which is no surprise to any of us. But so what we went in to do with RPM Engineering and Planning Department was come up with, well, and Police Department, a lot of stakeholders involved, but we put up physical barriers, and everybody's seen them down there. And now at this point, Amy's going to update us on the statistics and the data resulting from that pilot project. And it's gone so well that, either way, whatever you're comfortable with, it's gone so well that now we've decided the barriers are working. Let's make them more attractive. Let's use that area in a more permanent way and get rid of those temporary fences. So Amy's going to update us on the technical side of the project, the statistics with the accidents, and then Michael Briggs from the Planning Department is going to update us on the latest development on Broadway, which just occurred at about 4 o'clock this morning. So we'll give an update.
Right. Like Chip said, we've been working on this for the last year. The pilot went in place in last August 2015, and it's been incredibly successful. I think I'm going to skip ahead just to the results of what we've done, unless anyone wants to go through a lot of the details. But some of these earlier slides were, if you want to just flip through, was showing some of the crowded sidewalks and mid-block crossings and data.
I think we were going to start at around 19 or 20.
Yes.
Just go ahead and...
Yeah, there we go. We got a lot of kind of inspiration from things that New York City has done with their Times Square, with converting vehicular space to pedestrian space. So, as Chip said, this started out as a safety project, and it became apparent from a pedestrian bicycle safety study that was completed by Public Works in 2014, and it showed that the Lower Broadway section had the highest number of pedestrian crashes. So this table shows a year-to-year. The years are kind of weird just because of we wanted to show where the pilot started, which was August 2015, but we're showing a comparison of the last 5 years before the pilot started and then after. So you can see the number of pedestrian crashes starting back from 2010 really started to escalate, more than doubling since before the pilot project was installed. So 4 crashes in that first year, 5 years back, and then up to 10 pedestrian crashes. So that's quite a big jump. And then looking at after the pilot project was installed, we've had two pedestrian crashes, and that's not quite 12-month period yet. We have a little bit of lag on our the data that we can get from the police department, but it's the number of crashes has been significantly reduced back down to before. Yes, Nora?
I was just curious how you can have more pedestrian crashes than injuries.
Right, you can, or more injuries. The crash is the incident is counted as a crash, and then the number of in some cases we had crashes where it was more than one pedestrian that was struck.
I guess I was curious in the last year where there were 2 crashes and only 1 injury.
Right. Okay. Yes, that. You're right. Sorry, that's interesting. We categorized it as a non-injury because the crash was reported by the driver. The pedestrian ran away, and so that's how we've done it. But so we don't really know. There could have been some injury, but thanks for picking that up. So we'll go to the next slide. Like we said, we've had quite a bit of success. We think that it has discouraged mid-block crossings. It has certainly not completely eliminated mid-block crossings. We still have the gaps in the fences and where alleys are, and then periodically throughout the block. But it has been reduced based on our observations. You want to go back? Okay, sorry. And like we talked about, the pedestrian crosses have been reduced and the capacity for pedestrians. So the sidewalk space is essentially doubled because we've added about 6 to 7 feet of pavement width for use for pedestrians. And it's in the evenings and certainly on weekends, it's fully utilized by pedestrians. The universal loading zone, we use one of the outside lanes as a loading zone. So instead of having a space that's specific for musician loading and then another space that's specific for, say, freight loading, we're trying to use that whole loading lane as universal loading so anyone can come and go and use that space. So it's working better than it was before the pilot. So we've seen a lot of success there. And also in conjunction with the pilot, and the fences and barriers that were put in place, Public Works has instituted a pedestrian scramble, exclusive pedestrians phase, where all the vehicular phases are red and pedestrians are able to cross in any direction. And with that has been the pavement markings for diagonal crossings. And what that's supposed to do is eliminate or reduce the vehicular pedestrian conflict. So cars stop, and pedestrians can go, and then pedestrians stop, and then vehicles can go. So we have these signs, they're blank out signs that say no right turn on red on all of the approaches to all the intersections. So that when it's red for the pedestrian phase to go, no one can turn right. So that's working really well. We're moving into the next phase since it's been a successful project and have involved Gale Studio. They're a group from New York City, and the firm that was actually involved with helping New York City take their Times Square to a more pedestrian environment. So they're on the team, and we're just getting started. We've also included Nashville Civic Design Center involved, and really getting a big stakeholder involvement process going. And that's kind of starting this month, and we'll be moving forward with some public space, public life surveys and installations coming very soon. We're working with the stakeholder group to develop prototypes that will be able to test how pedestrians and the people on Lower Broadway interact with the space, and so we can then move forward to determining what the best infrastructure improvement enhancement is for the space moving forward. Next slide. Some of our goals for this next phase is we're going to watch and observe and figure out how do people move to and through and around this public realm, and that involves not just tourists, but also shoppers, business owners, all of the people that use that space, workers downtown, and residents. We're going to be analyzing the character and quality of the space and determining what different uses of the space should be applied. And of course, number one goal for this project, as it started out, was a safety project, and we're going to keep that in mind the entire way through as we continue to pilot and test different options for Broadway.
Question.
Yes.
Can you tell me what happens between the hours of 4 to 6 p.m. or 7 to 9 a.m. With people that are driving, exiting the business district downtown? Does that affect the right on red? Are people able to turn right on red so that they can?
There's been a learning sort of period, I believe.
We just, late last week, middle of last week, we've got this other project going on where we're retiming a lot of traffic signals. And just last week, we implemented the downtown area and Broadway being one of those. And so we've got ourselves, but we've got another team of consultants working on the timings of Broadway, amongst other arterials and stuff. So that is a valid point. Peak hours on Broadway for motorized traffic and other modes of transportation, MTA, that's very important. So that was one of the concerns when we started experimenting with this scramble. It's new to us, and what is it going to do to traffic? We're probably not moving as much traffic, but luckily, we've got KVB and Demonbreun moving a lot more than it used to, but right now, empty, there's the traffic volumes there. It is a concern, and we're watching it. Now, again, back to that word safety, you know, we knew we were going to slow some cars down and maybe not get as much traffic flow from a motorized or an MTA or bicycle standpoint through there, but the pedestrians were getting hit and we had to do something. So we're continuing to watch, and that's a good concern. It's a valid concern. Now, about the stakeholders, we do have a representative from the downtown area, and she happens to be on this commission as one of our stakeholders. But anything that involves regulatory changes or anything that this commission needs to know, we're going to come present it to you guys anyway. So you'll stay in the loop, and you'll be represented on the stakeholders committee. Just wanted you to know.
And just another add-on to the volume traffic. This graph shows a comparison of weekday traffic. The dotted red line are vehicular movements at this intersection, Broadway and 5th, and the blue are the pedestrians. So they kind of have opposite peak characteristics in terms of pedestrians and vehicles. The pedestrian peak hours is after your 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock time, but that's one thing to weigh in. So moving forward.
One more question.
Sure.
What about like the buses, tourist buses? Are they parking down there, or are they going to side streets during this? If there are people that are blocking a lane of traffic to load and unload during peak hours?
Right. So we've been working pretty closely with some of the, at least Public Works has, with some of the trolley groups.
The police department's been our friend, our best friend through this. It's we've got to continue to load, but you can't load from the wrong place. And so they've been preventing that double parked loading that you used to see more than you do now. But where a truck was parked in the travel lane, we've been trying to prevent that through the police department. We're doing a study now on the effect of slow-moving vehicles downtown. It doesn't really include loading, but it does include pedal taverns and horse carriages and everything else you see down there right now. We expect that to be wrapping up end of this month, maybe early October.
What's that called?
I call it the slow-moving vehicle study. I don't know. It probably has a better term in there somewhere, but
Question.
the impact of the slow-moving vehicles that you get trapped behind when you're trying to go through there, we all do. Is it a safety concern? Is it a congestion concern? Or is it worth it for the benefit of it, if there is one?
Is it possible to discourage that kind of the slow-moving traffic from being down there or being a part of things during peak business hours? I mean, peak rush hours.
That would probably be the first recommendation, exclude peak hour activity for the slow-moving vehicles. That's kind of what we do with loading and parking and any other restriction during those peak hours. It's a no-no. We do it with construction, hard to enforce, but anything that impacts that 3 to 6 or 4 to 6 p.m. window or in your morning peak hour, we might create a different zone for those slow-moving vehicles, get them away from those arterials and busy areas for just 2 hours or 4 hours a day, or we just say no more permits issued during those times.
Chip, I have 2 questions. One related to the existing area of Lower Broad. How many active police officers are needed to kind of help monitor the traffic, keep the traffic flowing? I guess that's a police officer question.
Yeah.
And then my second question is, are there other areas of downtown that similar things are considered future consideration?
Well, the first one that comes to mind would be somewhere like the Gulch. 12th South has always had a lot of pedestrian activity. We do have a scramble at 4th and Church. We have a total of 6 in town, 5 on Broad and 1 at 4th and Church. We're doing a lot more leading pedestrian intervals. It's a leading walk. The pedestrian gets to lead the phase. So to answer your question, are there other candidates? Yes, they're all over. And we're playing catch up with some of the stuff we should have been doing already, but predicting where that next hotspot's going to be is a little tricky. But 12th South, Gulch, Belmont, Lipscomb, any of the universities, Vandy, of course. Yeah, it's on our radar.
Mr. Green, what was your question about police officers on Broadway?
It was about how many active duty police officers are kind of required to help enforce this situation downtown. I mean, you have to kind of keep people moving, is my understanding.
Yes, well, as far as the vehicle traffic, we have to wait for the lights. We have to wait for cycles of lights. What we do is stop them from what we get down, especially on a weekend. We get cruisers, people that are cruising up and down Broadway, up and down Second, and we have plans in effect for that, especially when people are getting off work, because we don't want to impede their process of getting off work and getting home. So what we try to do is just keep traffic going, clear up wrecks as quick as we can, make sure that people are moving along with the light, preventing gridlock. I mean, that's the thing that we have to do, is prevent gridlock, because once everybody's in that turning lane, instead of stopping at the line like you're supposed to, it's sort of hard to get them going. But we are making efforts into doing that, and the more that Public Works continues to get different avenues out of downtown, is the more it helps. Also, the new parking that's coming up, that's not just surface lots, but a lot of different levels, that's helping, because people have different ways to get out. I mean, in one concentrated location park, got 80 million ways to get out. So that's helping us quite a bit, using the mayor's office and also the courthouse parking has helped us tremendously. So we're working along with Public Works in order to do that. The pedestrian safety, they have a plan in effect, and it seems to be working. I mean, look at the data. We've seen a tremendous drop on pedestrians being injured in car wrecks, and that's what we wanted to do. You talk about some other areas that may need some assistance. I would say around Nolensville Road, Nolensville and Harding, anywhere where you have a cluster of apartment complexes, you're going to have pedestrian traffic, and that's where we need to really focus on getting those folks to and where they need to go, because they're mostly walking. So that's something that's on the map, and police department also we see is on a map is around North Nashville, Germantown. We get a lot of pedestrian traffic over there. Not the Sound Stadium is up. Hopefully I answered your questions. All right, thank you.
So I was just going to wrap up with one last slide. I think not the last one, but the next to last one, to tell you about Parking Day, because you're probably going to hear about it or you heard about it. And this is an international event that's been going on for, I think, 10 plus years. And in Nashville, we've been participating for 5 or 6 years, I believe. And the Nashville Civic Design Center hosts this event for Nashville and organizes different groups. Anybody that wants to design a parklet, what happens is we temporarily take a parking space and turn it into a parklet, whatever kind of use you want to use it as, and it's been really successful. Broadway has always been a location that has been targeted, and you'll see parklets. So that's on Friday of this week. But in addition to Broadway, they're going to be on 2nd Avenue, I think some in 5 Points, the Gulch. That should be a great event, lots of participation, and good use of public space.
All right. As we roll into Michael, you want so if you get a chance, go down and see the parklets. Is that what they're called? Parking. He's going to tell us what they're all about. But last year, if you didn't see them, they were pretty neat to go see them. And Corby, do you have his slideshow? Yeah, take it away, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you all for having me. I'm Michael Briggs. I'm a transportation planner in the planning department, and so I'm going to go a little bit more detail on the Parking Day activities. And if you've been down Broadway this morning or this afternoon, you've probably seen the blue paint that's going in. You may have questions. So as Amy mentioned, Parking Day is this Friday. It's an international event that goes on in many cities where they're taking a parking space, turning it into a parklet or a park. But it's essentially additional gathering space for other activities than just for parking. The Lower Broad pilot project will be out for 6 weeks starting this Friday. It'll go through October 24th. There'll be a few days beyond the 24th where they'll have to pull things up. So those loading zones that are being impacted between 1st and 2nd will be closed off through about the 28th of October. Next slide. So the idea for all of this and why we keep talking about it is not only the safety issues that have been identified by Public Works, there's all of the momentum down there with the diagonal crosswalks, and the signal work has really highlighted a need to improve pedestrian safety and really give people who are walking to the businesses in the area their space to congregate and go from business to business. And so in Nashville Next, the city's general plan, we have a countywide critical need to make those improvements between First and Fifth and begin transitioning it to more of a street that's for pedestrians. And so the area that we're specifically looking at for the pilot project is between First and Second. So it's in front of Acme, Rock Bottom, and Hard Rock there. And you'll see if you go down there today, the loading zones are painted blue. Now the aerial that's in this photo is not what's currently there, where the barricades were put up for pedestrians and then diagonal crosswalks. So some of those markings have changed since then. And again, the purpose really is to get people thinking about a broader vision for Broadway between First and Fifth that could be easier to manage, both for loading, pedestrians, events that need to take place in the area. And so we've been partnering with Public Works, Parks, Gale, RPM, and Collier have been working on this. The Civic Design Center, Downtown Partnership, and the Mayor's Office have been involved in different components of this work. And so demonstration projects, as Amy mentioned, it's usually low cost or low risk projects. One of the things that we want to be sure, because of the safety issues on this corridor, is that we don't kind of exacerbate the problem there. And so we'll actually be out there on Friday, in addition to talking about the broader vision of Broadway, but also safety information about how to appropriately cross the street and the diagonals. Also informing people of the no right on red. It's pretty obvious, but there's an education component that can go a long way with this, and so having that interaction while we are down there. The space will have eating, sitting areas, flowers, and it'll be marked off with bollards and blue paint. And so the idea is that we test this out, see how it works, what issues come up with it, that we're getting feedback from residents. We set up on our website at nashville.gov/MPC information. It shows a video of the long-range potential that could be done between First and Fifth. And then we're also encouraging people that if they have specific comments to email us at broadway.vision@nashville.gov. And we'll be assembling all of that information for when RPM and Gale Studio work on the longer-term project with the Civic Design Center, so they can review some of the comments and feedback that we're hearing. This just shows some examples. Memphis is doing stuff like this. New York is kind of the leader in this. Chicago is well underway with a number of pilot projects as well. And so then this is the proposal. The blue paint would be out again, lasting 6 weeks, and it would be for gathering space, and it's not impacting anything than what was there before in terms of travel lanes. It is impacting the loading zone and the taxi cab stand in front of the Hard Rock and Acme. This just gives a little bit more detail. This isn't going to be the exact setup, but using street furniture and plants out there. And we'll be working on the placement both with Parks and Public Works later this week. And then I think the final slide shows, I forgot to mention, this is the fun part. So there is a virtual reality technology that we have that people will have 4 of these glasses that basically use a smartphone. And you can position yourself around the street, and it will show what the street can look like in the future. And so we've mocked up an example to get people inspired about what it could look like. So we'll have that down there. Our planners will be working with people to kind of give them some ideas and get feedback as well. And so this will be, again, the long-term vision. And I would encourage, if you have time, to check it out on our website. We can play around with it. If people have ideas on things, we can begin to work around different concepts and ideas about making this area just really work better for all people who are moving through the corridor.
Could you put that up one more time, that last
Sure.
slide?
Thank y'all.
Thank both of you. Chip?
I'll just summarize. It's not as easy as it easily makes it look, and we appreciate all the work. So it's going to involve all of us, and it's going to take some patience and some engineering and some planning and everyone involved. So changes are coming for the better, and so get ready. We don't know what they're going to be yet, but we're all in it together. Thank you, Michael. Amy.
I have one more question. The last really attractive slide that was up there, are we looking at cars, automobiles being down to 2 lanes?
Well, it is a state route. Did you hear me say it's not going to be as easy as it looks?
Yes, I did.
Okay. It is a state route. It's going to involve TDOT. It's going to involve the downtown mobility study, which could reroute some MTA routes, put in other kinds of transportation modes and possibilities in the area. What you saw is 2 lanes, yes, to answer your question. It's not like we would do that without figuring out where that's going to divert to, because it's going somewhere. It's going to divert to other modes of transportation. It's going to divert to other roadways. It's going to divert to more pedestrians, more people living in downtown. That's just, we're thinking outside of the box, and we haven't decided where every vehicle's going at this point. Good point, though.
Chip, can I mention something? I know at one time y'all tried a pilot program of shutting Broadway down there. Did that not work out very well, or did the merchants not agree with that?
I'll say is Public Works has not really shut it down unless it's for the New Year's Eve or whatever, through the permit process to a special event. That's usually through the police department for a Predators game or something. And it has worked from pedestrian safety because the police department has a lot of control down there. That might be on the horizon as well. Those are going to be things you look at. Do you just close Broadway during certain times, or just close it outright?
Well, I was
busy.
Yeah, I was mentioning that because, in Austin, Texas, they do that on 8th Avenue, and of course they're doing it at Bill Street in Memphis also. So
that is not completely off the table. It depends on who you talk to about it being feasible or not. But I mean, I've been there downtown for pedestrian Preds games, and it works fine for those kind of events. But is it something you do at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning or whatever? There's all those parameters you got to look at.
The merchants that I've spoken with, and I've had extensive conversations with them about this, they are not in favor of closing Broadway. And I think that we need to get information about what's happened in Memphis with Beale Street, for example. They're charging admission to get in down there now. And so I'm talking to some of my counterparts over with the Memphis Chamber to get, and their CVC, to get their figures on that. And also with the district, which is not included as a stakeholder in your list, but should be because we represent a large portion of folks down there. We have retained the services of Hawkins Partners to bring in 2nd Avenue into this planning process with some lighting improvements, some possible sidewalk things. He's working in conjunction with Gale. And so we're continuing and dovetailing in on this. So the improvements will be, I think they'll be comprehensive, and they'll blend together, and it'll be a nice, really nice area down there for pedestrian activity, for business enhancement. It's going to be good. So I'll definitely keep everybody informed on that.
Well, and I'll say the stakeholders list that you've seen, it's dynamic. It's going to change 100 times before it's all over with. And so every one of us might end up as a stakeholder at some point during the process, because we all have different knowledge and capabilities for input. So definitely the district or some representation of the district will be involved.
Commissioners, any more questions? Again, glad to have Mr. Mark Sturdivant, Public Works Director, with us today. Glad to have Councilman Hager here with us today. Sergeant? Captain. Oh, excuse me. Oh, my.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.